Judgment Day is more important than Election Day. If I know my brothers and sisters are going to die in an unnecessary war, and I have the balls to stand up for them when I had the chance to represent them in Congress, shame on me. And by the way, my Savior will call me on Judgment Day, and he will not be happy.
Welcome to the Lion's Den, hosted by Lance Bachman.
Hey everybody, Patrick Murphy here, our former Undersecretary of the Army, U.S. Congressman, straight from Northeast Philly, took the hill, a lot of accolades. We're going to be talking today about our troops that were left, our people that were left in Afghanistan, from military vets that own businesses to you actually produced a movie, Cherry, where we helped consult on that movie, and lots of other things to do with our vets, what they do, all your success. Welcome to the den, Patrick, and I appreciate you willing to be so open and honest about everything.
Thanks, Lance. Thanks for having me. I'm right down the street. I'm a quarter mile away from the Lion's Den here, so it's always, I run by here all the time working out, and so it's good to be in the building.
So I appreciate you coming on. For everyone that knows, I was very candid. We're going to ask you some tough questions here, and you were like, all right, fire away. So before we get into that, let's tell everyone who you are and what you do now. And you had a lot of success, and you literally went into the military. Well, you started your own business with $322, right? So let's talk about this.
Sure. Listen, I was the youngest of three kids. My dad was a Navy vet, Philly cop for 22 years. My mother was a secretary. We grew up in a row house, and we had that row house mentality growing up. Really into sports. My brother and I, we both went and played in college together, hockey. But, I look at it like my parents just instilled a deep love of our community and our country. And I joke that, I started working sixth grade, having a job. My brother was a newspaper delivery guy. We was altar boys. We did the extra funeral masses and weddings because you got $5 at mass and stuff like that. But to me, it was just a great upbringing and instilled in me the values of hard work and grit and determination.
So you went to Ryan High School. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Bucks County Community College. I was a full-time community college student.
Wait, stop. You teach at West Point.
I teach at West Point. Yep.
All right. So I did my research. I thought you went to West Point.
No. So I taught at West Point. So I've been very blessed. The Army changed my life for the better. I joined at 19. Eventually, the Army companies, I earned my commission as an Army officer, as a lieutenant.
Okay.
Then they let me go to law school. So I then went to law school. Then went back in, was a federal prosecutor. But honestly, a huge break in my life was when General Patrick Finnegan said, hey, I can choose out of several thousand captains, but I want you, and I want you to teach the next generation of military leaders at West Point. And so at age 27, I was the youngest professor at West Point, teaching constitutional law. So from 17 years of age, being a full-time student at community college, 10 years later, being a captain and a professor at West Point was pretty awesome and changed my life for the better.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service, because I know you served in the Iraq War. Actually, you served there, which I appreciate every military person out there. You go from Iraq to Congress. Can you just, and I just got to ask you, are you crazy? I mean, I know you got to be crazy to go fight war, which I appreciate. I'm not saying anything negative there, but they go, why would you go to Congress?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. What made you say I want to be a congressperson?
Well, honestly, Lance, I had lost 19 men in my unit in Iraq. And it was my second deployment. I was part of the invasion of Iraq, but I already deployed earlier, right after 9/11. And I thought I didn't think we needed to fight in the Iraq War. I mean, America has the greatest military in the world. We're the greatest country in the world. But we're known to be the reluctant warrior. We don't try to pick fights. We end fights. And to me, it was all about 9/11 when thousands of innocent Americans were murdered 20 years ago. And that was Al-Qaeda and bin Laden, who was in Afghanistan, the border of Pakistan. So to me, it was a diversion that was not a right one. But the people I served with in Iraq were heroes. We don't get to choose our foreign policy. It's the political leaders in Washington, D.C. And we have the least amount of veterans serving in Congress in history. And it's a lot of these chicken hawks that never wore the uniform, that want to get our sons and daughters into harm's way, that don't know the cost of these wars and the cost of the families of these service members in these wars. So I was like, I'm going to go run for Congress. And I came back home here in Northeast Philly in Bucks County. I had $322 in my bank account. I was outspent by over $3 million, but I won by 0.6% by 1,518 votes of that 250,000 cast. And I won. And I won again. And
Talk to me about what you did in Congress, right? Talk to us about, I know you're big into veterans, businesses owned by veterans. I know you're big into drug opioids for veterans. I know but talk to me about what was your main rocks that you wanted to lift, and did they get lifted?
Yeah. I would say I went to Congress, and I was lucky. I was the only Iraq War veteran in my first term, and then my second term, there was only 4 of us. But to me, it was about being the voice of my brothers and sisters. And I didn't care whether Democrats, Republicans, Independents. I was there to fight for them. And to me, it's about solving pains, being a problem solver. So when you solve pains, like what was the pain at that time? Unemployment rate in the veterans community, post 9/11 veterans like myself, was 12 to 16% of our population. That's wrong. So what do? We passed the post 9/11 GI Bill. And I did it with a guy, Tim Walls. He was a command sergeant major in the Army. We were freshmen. We both got a really shitty apartment in Washington together because we were the young families. His family was in Minnesota. Mine was in Bucks County. And we said, hey, let's pull the money. We can get cheaper rent in D.C. And, that's what we did. We didn't have cable. I mean, it was like, it was where we lived during the week when we had to vote. By the way, Tim Walls is now governor of Minnesota.
Shout out.
Yeah. So, but, we did things like the post 9/11 GI Bill. So right now, so naturally I say, hey, well, Murphy did that, when you're in Congress. Yeah, well, right now, there's 1.1 million kids in colleges and universities across America on the post 9/11 GI Bill. So that's a game changer for the veterans community. And not just one bill that I did. I could talk about others too. But
if you like this content and you're trying to grow your business, follow me at Lance Bachman and Lance Bachman Digital on Facebook. LFG, time to grow. Some hot topics right now is we just pulled out of Afghanistan about 2 weeks ago. Our final troops just came home about a week ago. Final people, it's done, right? Just people left there. I'm not here placing blame on anyone because, like I told you, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm in the middle. I could really care less, right? As an ex-vet, I mean, you're a military guy. Do you think we should have people over there still? I'm just curious.
Well, a couple of things. One, it's just heartbreaking when you see, these transitions are never easy and they're hard. But we have been in forever wars, and it's not just a talking point. I mean, it's the longest wars in American history, Lance. I mean, again, you heard me earlier. Thousands of innocent Americans were murdered, civilians, on 9/11. We brought those people to justice. We took out Al-Qaeda. We took out bin Laden, who was responsible for those murders of innocent Americans. And then we stayed over a decade later after we brought him to justice and tried to give the Afghan people, there's about 38 million people that live in Afghanistan, and I've been there twice, tried to give them a sense of, democracy, letting girls go to school, letting women vote, letting them be part of the political process, right? But it's up for them, Lance. We can't export democracy. The people got to want it more than we want it for them. And so we did that for 10 years, and, we turned it over. So we're now here. We're doing this interview now in September. We let the people over there know in May, all Americans that were there that were not military, you should leave. It's going to get dangerous. We're transitioning out. We let folks know. And then, then we had the timeline. And so we've gotten over 130,000 Americans, our Afghan allies. I've been working with General Patriot on a nonprofit called No One Left Behind. We've helped thousands of folks be part of that. And to me, of course, it's Afghanistan. It's never easy, and it gets messy. And we lost 13 Americans toward the end there, and by a terrorist attack. And that those Marines, especially, and their families. I mean, it breaks my heart. But we've lost thousands in Afghanistan. We lost thousands in Iraq, and the people got to want it for themselves.
So you said something interesting most people don't hear. I want to talk about the Marines, some of that, but I want to talk about there was a timeline in May, because most people know that. I mean, I don't watch the news at all, but I have not heard about this. So in May, the State Department said if you're an American civilian or an ally,
contractor,
pack up and leave.
Entrepreneur, like it's getting dangerous.
Pack up and leave.
And and again, we're not going to forcibly take people out. It's they're Americans. They can do what they want to do, but. And then when it got closer, we're like, we're leaving. Like, hey, we're shutting down the embassy. And turn over the one airport. And, we saw what was coming. I don't think any folks in the national security realm thought it was going to, disintegrate that quickly, meaning Taliban was going to take over. But because there's over 200,000 to 300,000, Afghan troops and the national police combined, the reality of it is that they got the provincial leaders there got paid off by the Taliban, and they let them come sweep in and take in. Now, the Taliban, they're, when you look at, I study this stuff, I studied Al-Qaeda, I say, they look at it, they just don't want a national government. They want provisional leaders. They don't want, and even now, since we've left now, they're allowing girls to stay in school. Women have to have the headscarves out in public. They don't have to wear the burqas that they had to wear 20 years ago. So, but again, I'm not a fan of the Taliban and their leadership, so I'm not trying to, but I'm just saying it has gotten better in 20 years. It looks like it's going to be good, but do I trust them? Do I? No, and I still want to bring those people to justice that are responsible for killing 13 of our Marines over there a few weeks ago.
Like I said to you, I'm not here to place blame on Biden or Trump because it's just I don't think it matters. You have 13 dead Marines. Do you kind of agree with that? Like, it doesn't matter how we got here. We're here. It's time to serve justice. Because no matter what's happened, I always say to people, when you're in a place, you're there. Casting blame isn't going to help anyone.
Right.
You got to go back and learn from things later. So can
Right.
you kind of talk to me about your feeling of being a military person? Do you feel the same way? Or do you have a totally different belief?
I mean, first of all, most military people are apolitical. In fact, when I was in the military, I was independent. I was an unaffiliated voter, in Pennsylvania. So most folks understand that when President Trump was, and again, I'm not casting blame on it, but when President Trump was the president, he had a peace deal that he made with the Taliban at Camp David. Like, he invited the Taliban to Camp David. They had a peace deal. It was that we were leaving and we were returning. And so now they didn't execute on when the timeline was going to be and so like that. And then, Biden gets in and, and he's, said, hey, I'm going to stop the forever wars. And he started the timeline, and we brought troops home, and we brought over 100,000 civilians home with us too. And these are really important. And I don't want to overstep the fact that, the translators that were with us are partners on this, and other folks that were our allies, they're heroes too. I mean, I have a girl, Ali Abdul Abad, in Philadelphia. She was my translator in Baghdad, Iraq. When it was 138 degrees, when I got shot at, she was in the vehicle. She was getting shot at too. Like, and we were getting mortared. She was in her compound. She was getting mortared too at night. So, when I say 19 of my brothers, they were 82nd Airborne paratroopers that were killed that I was with. But there was also a lot of Iraq civilians that were killed, and also Afghan civilians that were killed. And the ones that weren't, we brought them back with us. That want to come back. There's still some that are left that I think we're still working through, trying to get them over here. The Taliban has said that they didn't take flights. They're not going to stop them from coming back over here or another country if they choose to do so. I'm a type of person, like, if you don't knock on my house, I'm probably not going to bother you, right? Like, there's a very good chance. Do you kind of feel like it's how America should be, or do you think we should be fighting some of these wars? No, I'm
just curious from your standpoint.
No, I think we should absolutely root out terrorists that are trying to do our families harm.
Yeah.
And I'm all about...
That's someone knocking on our door, right?
Yeah. And the best defense is a good offense. Like, it's hard to throw a punch when there's a fist in your face, right? So, absolutely. But America at her best, is the reluctant warrior. I mean, you look at the dollar bill. Our symbol is an American eagle. And on one town has 13 arrows signifying our military might, and 13 original colonies. The other talent is an olive branch showing our diplomatic leadership or economic power. And again, that reluctant warrior. But when we go in, the whole PAL doctrine, the lesson learned from Vietnam, Colin Powell it was called the PAL doctrine. It's like, we have to have a clear mission. We have to use overwhelming force to accomplish that mission, and then we have a clear exit strategy. So if you look at Afghanistan, the mission, we got in there, and then within a year and a half, we were talking about Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11, had nothing to do with Bin Laden. It was a different country. It wasn't a next door neighbor. We got diverted from the original mission in Afghanistan and taken out Al Qaeda and Bin Laden to go into Iraq. We didn't have enough forces in Afghanistan, so we had to change the leadership. We had Barack Obama come in, and again, I'm just giving you the historical context.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what did Barack Obama do? He tripled the amount of troops, tens of thousands more of troops in Afghanistan. We smoked out Bin Laden, and we got him in the border of Pakistan. We brought him to justice. Now, that happened. We stayed there over a decade later. And again, this is what happens sometimes in military operations, because the political leaders still make the calls in Washington. And it's Congress and it's the White House. Whoever's in power, they make the calls on where our men and women are going to be. And they made a call to keep them there. All right, well, let's see. They're making progress. And I used to say, and I said this with both administrations, I used to say, hey, we keep talking about turn around the corner. It's not a military solution here, ladies and gentlemen. It's up for the 38 million Afghan people and their political leaders. And their political leaders are going to be corrupt and take bribes and not fight for their own people. There's something wrong there.
So you think we should have left way before now?
Well, I think we should have. I think,
And that's
we should,
okay.
No. I think
I have no opinion. I don't know the way you do.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think I'm glad that I think it was absolutely possibly the right decision. I think the decision could be made earlier. And then again, we just have 4 years of the Trump administration, and again, less than a year than the Biden administration. Do I think we should leave a strategic strike force and stuff like that to make sure we can still do the drone strikes and stuff from there, even though we don't have boots to the ground? Because that's what we should have done in Iraq, and then we had to go back in because ISIS popped its head and stuff. There's some small tactical things that I think we could do that would be helpful, but you can't forget the strategic decision of, we're not there to be an occupying force in these countries, especially if the people don't want us to be there.
So before we jump, you just brought up Obama. So before we jump, you're working for him directly, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. There's probably in Congress and senators, I think U.S. military people make up less than 10% total now. Is that an accurate number?
Right,
Yep. How the hell does 90% of people that have never seen a dead body, never even understood? Most of them probably never been punched in the face. I mean, most of these people are Harvard, second, third, fourth generation wealthy people. You're not the norm. You're the 1%er, I'm going to call it, of that, right? Of what's,
not economically, not my bank account, but
that's what I'm saying. You're in the 1%er of your. Like I always tell people, when I was the vice president of AT&T, everybody was a Harvard person. When you're on the floor and you're making these decisions, are you thinking to yourself, why don't you go over here and see what it's like? I mean, do you ever think that, honestly? That's what I would be thinking.
Yeah, no, that's why I ran for Congress, by the way. I mean, it's less than 1% of our country that served in the longest wars, 2 decades of wars. They've done multiple. I mean, Lance, I've done 2 deployments. My brother's done 2 deployments. I have 2 uncles that served in Vietnam. My dad served during Vietnam. We're asking the less than 1% of America to serve these longest wars, and they're going on 5, 6, 7 deployments, some of them, right? And again, you look at the divorce rate in the military. You look at the invisible wounds of war. And then you have a Congress. I mean, I was there, and no joke, I had a member of Congress that would complain that we had to work past 10 o'clock with him. Oh, it's late. I'm like, I was like in Iraq, I'd be start my second shift around this time, and I'm going till 3 in the morning because we're doing night ops. And the one night when someone was bitching about how late we were working because then I was getting toward midnight, we were doing, Afghanistan war, National Defense Authorization Act stuff, and I remember being like, I can't believe your belly aching when we have men and women, our country's best, in harm's way, getting shot at to keep our family safe, and there was a disconnect.
See, there's a disconnect. So you being on the battlefield, which I know you're from Northeast Philly. I know a ton of people that know you. You're a straight up person. You got to be sitting there thinking to yourselves with some of these people in the room that are making decisions. You probably wouldn't be making these same decisions if it was you or your brothers or sisters.
Right. And it's very personal to me. And I had one vote where it was basically a vote for a forever war. It was during Iraq, and it was a blank check in Iraq without a timeline. And I remember I voted against it. And I knew when I voted against it, Lance, that, I was new to politics, but, I'm smart and I'm quick learning. And someone with gray hair, my team said they got the old man that's been around the block. And he called me. He's like, Patrick, he's like, Mr. Sorry. He's like, hey, you got to vote for this bill. And I'm like, he goes, I know it's against what you ran for Congress for, but this is like one of those things in Congress you got to learn just to hold your nose. And this is the 30-second campaign commercial we're going to use against you, that you're defunding the troops. And I was like, I'm not defunding the troops. We passed, but they vetoed it. This is another bill that sucks. I'm not going to vote for this. And he's like, you got to hold your nose, Patrick, vote for it. This is going to hurt you politically. I'm like, that's bullshit. And I said, I'm not going to do it. And I was the only one in suburban Philadelphia, of a member of Congress, that voted against it. And let me tell you something, Lance. I learned at an early age in Northeast Philly that if you're afraid to get hurt, you play sports, you're going to get hurt.
No doubt.
Right? So I was like, if this is the 30-second campaign commercial, when they know I wrote the GI Bill, when I'm doing stuff, double the amount of funding for veterans, I'm for a strong military, but I'm not for forever wars and unnecessary wars. And I had the balls to stand up and fight for it. And guess what? I won my re-election by a historic amount, by 15 points, 55,000 votes after I only won by 1,500.
Yeah.
So to me, and by the way, Judgment Day is more important than Election Day. If I know my brothers and sisters are going to die in an unnecessary war, and I have the balls to stand up for them when I had the chance to represent them in Congress, shame on me. And by the way, my Savior will call me on Judgment Day, and he will not be happy.
Oh yeah, no doubt. So let's shift to you serving, right? Barack Obama asked you to serve as the Undersecretary of the Army, correct?
Yes.
How'd that come about? You get that phone. I mean, you're an intense cat. I mean, you're more intense than me, and I like that. I mean, I have a lot of respect for you. You're intense.
I'm like the nicest type A guy you want to meet.
You're intense,
like,
you know. But you get that phone call from the President of the United States, and I think Barack Obama, by the way, is the best public speaker of all time. That's just my opinion on him for speaking, not politically. Guy could hold a room.
Yeah.
What was that call like?
Actually, it was in person. I was there at an event. It was actually in Philly. We were there, and I got a chance to talk to him. I know him, and his chief of staff time was Dennis McDonough. But I was, he'd asked me after Congress to stay on, and hey, could I get a role in the Pentagon? I said, hey, sir, what are you thinking? And he goes, well, I'd like to be a special assistant to the SecDef. Bob Gates, who I love, Secretary Gates, served under Bush, stayed under Obama, like a true patriot. And I said, hey, sir, like, listen, I'm a member of Congress, right? I don't need a job. I'm going to go back home. My family's there, I have kids. I go, if you have something with something different where it's, a portfolio, like something meaty, like I'll serve. But like, he doesn't need a special assistant. He doesn't need Patrick Murphy to, and I said, with all due respect, and I said, but I want to serve and you let me know. And he's like, all right. And came back. He's like, all right, I know you're getting out, but like, can you serve on the board of West Point? I know you taught there, as a captain. So I got the chance to serve on the board there. I loved it doing that. So I'm serving on the board of West Point. I'm a lawyer by trade, so I'm a partner at a major firm in Philly. It's a national law firm. I love the politics stuff, so I have my own TV show up at 30 Rockefeller Center for NBC. It was on the weekends. It was great. And then I learned the TV business, and then I created other shows for CBS Sports on veteran stuff. It's called the Triumph Games. So, I mean, life was good. I just did contract negotiations with my agent. NBC doubled my salary. I signed a 2-year contract extension. Life is good. I see Barack Obama in Philly. He goes, Patrick, I know we talked a couple years ago, but I have my last 2 years in administration. And he goes, I got to finish strong. I'm going to make some changes in the Pentagon. I need you to go help run the Army. And I'm like, hey, I said, well, what and I thought he was going to be a special job. And I'm like, hey, sir, I'm good. And I'm like, and he goes, no, it's like Undersecretary of the Army. And I'm like, all right, well, let me talk to the boss. And I was like, because I didn't want to be committed. And then
But how do you say no to Brock?
Well, no, I didn't say no.
I know you said yes, but how could you even go home? Like, even if your wife said to say no, what do you say?
So then I went, and she's my ex-wife now, but I went, and I said,
maybe you should have said no.
I Googled what the Undersecretary of the Army was. I didn't know what it was, to be honest with you, right? Which is embarrassing to say. But most cats don't know. I knew enough that I knew the Secretary of the Army, I knew the assistant. But I was like, is that under the assistant secretary's general counsel? Like, I remember thinking, so I had to Google image the flow chart of the Pentagon and how, and then I was like, oh, it's the number 2, it's a CO. So, and again, I was already kind of predisposed to say yes to him, and so then, but again, I was doing well for the first time in my life, professionally, economically. Again, I'm a guy, even now in 2021, I'm still paying my college loans off and law school loans. I'm in a 2-year Army scholarship, but like I'm paying that off every month and my mortgage. But long story short, I was doing well, but I gave it up to go back into public service. So I paid a third of what I was making, or probably like a fourth of what I was making, to go back into the Pentagon and do it. But let me tell you, I love my brothers and sisters. I love my country, and I would do it again. Like, to me, it was great. But I will tell you, within the first week, I was already like, I was putting because within the second day I was there in the Pentagon, something happened, and then I had to come to number 1. So I was acting Secretary of the Army. So and you'll appreciate this, Lance, because you're like one of the country's experts on media and communication, and I still talk with the Northeast Philly accent, and I talk too fast. But I said to my team, I'm like, all right, well, listen, if I'm obviously, and tomorrow I'm going to take hold of the Army. There's 1.3 million people on our team in the Army, 1 million soldiers, 300,000 civilians. I go, I'm going to send an email out and introduce them. I'm not just going to do a letter that's going to be posted on some wall that no one ever reads. I said, and they're like, what do you mean? I go, like, an email. Like, I'm going to send an email, say, hey, I'm Patrick Murphy, great to be back on the team, blah, blah, blah. Like, and they're like, we don't know if we could do that. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do it Friday. It's Tuesday. Figure it out. I'm not taking no for an answer. And I go, and I'll give you a draft of what my email is going to say, because I don't want some 3-page email. And I was respectful, but I know how it is.
Yeah.
These people want to write down my 10-point plan, the outward plan. Like, I'll give me 20. No, I'm like, so I got in there, and unfortunately we had 2 soldiers that were killed the next day.
Sorry to hear that.
So I led with like, hey, listen, it's great to be back on the team. I'm sure you all saw the news. We lost 2 of our members, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, today I'm going to be at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware to do what we call the dignified transfer. Then the caskets come back. And then I was like, listen, and then I just concluded, like, I'm here to be accessible. You're going to see me out. And then, I made plans that I would go out, and within 10 days I was in Afghanistan. And when I was in Afghanistan, I was getting briefed by generals, but more importantly, I would go and work out with troops every time, every morning, dark 30, whatever they were doing, I was doing. I said, I don't want no special, calisthenics. This isn't Jane Fonda time, whatever you're doing. So one of my favorite pictures at that time was my first trip was I'm in Afghanistan, and I'm carrying a soldier on my shoulders because it was about what we call fireman's carry. I was carrying them. We're doing, drills and to me, it's, that's what it was about. And that's why, when the Washington Post did a story about, cause I was in an Amtrak crash, or a year after Amtrak crash, Patrick Murphy's now the soldier secretary. I was one of them, and I will always be one of them because that's where my heart is.
Let's talk about that, because me and you talked about one of the hot topics since you've been in and that you were in Congress and out is really probably the hottest topic, I want to assume, besides God bless the Marines, is really transgender in the military, right? I mean, it's one of the hottest topics, goes back and forth. I think Trump said you lived through the don't ask, don't tell era. I think you were part of that era, correct?
True.
Then it was, I think, if I remember correctly, Trump said all transgenders are out.
Yep.
I think Biden came back and said now transgenders are back in now. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Timeline? Can you kind of tell me your position and your thoughts behind it? Because that's a very touchy subject, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, it's touchy for those who don't serve in the military. Because in the military, we don't give a shit who you love and how you see yourself. If you're a guy, you're a guy. You're a gal, you're a gal. Okay, and then you live accordingly. It's pretty simple. We care. Can you shoot straight? Can you shoot, move, and communicate? Yeah, can you get the job done? And the political leaders in Washington always want to use the military as as if they're their mom and dad protecting it. It's like, we don't care. We're the majority of our troops are 18 to 24 years old. They don't care. So when I was in Congress, as the first Iraq vet in Congress, I wrote the bill. It was called the Murphy Amendment that repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And that's why they do that. Because again, I'm a simple guy. I'm from a row house in Northeast Philadelphia. 10 years later, I'm teaching constitutional law at West Point. On day one of constitutional law at West Point, what am I teaching the seniors there about to be commissioned officers, the next generation of military leaders, right? It's the Constitution is a blueprint of our country. And it's really simple. We have 3 branches of governments: executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch. It's like rocks, paper, scissors. One's not more powerful than the other. But the fundamental principles of our Constitution is equality, justice, liberty, the rule of law. The rule of law means no one is above the law. Whether you're a president, corporate CEO, you can't go kill people on the street. You can't, whether it's criminal or on civil cases too. And I would say, look at President Nixon. Look at President Clinton. They got impeached. I would use those as examples.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I saw my brothers and sisters after 9/11, get thrown out of the military, not for misconduct. Because again, I don't care whatever you are, whatever your sexual orientation is. If you commit sexual misconduct, we'll throw you out. It's called the UCMJ. Heterosexuals get kicked out for doing bad stuff, right? There's things in place to take care of bad people, right? Mm-hmm. Just like there is in regular society.
Absolutely.
Right? But in the military, we don't care. So again, we passed the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell under the Murphy Amendment. After 9/11, there was 13,000 troops that got thrown out because of who they loved. And again, to me, Lance, it's about money, right? Again, I got to balance my checkbook. I think the federal government should balance theirs and stuff, but it costs, on average, $60,000 to recruit every Gen Z now member to go in their military. So you do the math, $60,000 per person.
I don't mean to cut you off. It doesn't come down to money to me. It just comes down to the fundamental rights of, once again, if you ain't knocking on my door bothering me,
right,
why do I care who you sleep with?
Right.
I don't understand if a man wants to sleep with a man in the military or not, or a girl wants to sleep with a girl. I don't care if you want to sleep with 10 people. Honestly, it don't make a difference to me. I hate to sound rude. It doesn't bother me. Why would anyone care? That's one of the sticking points here. My sister's gay, obviously you know that. She's my CFO. Yeah. My CEO's gay. There's a lot of gay people here. There's transgenders in some of my companies. Yeah. I can never wrap that part even in the military, because if you could protect me at night, and I said this to you earlier, like if I'm sleeping and my children are sleeping, I don't care if you're strawberry shortcake and you can shoot a gun, I want you on the front line.
Right.
Or am I missing? What am I missing there?
Well,
or do you have the same view? Or am I just
I
missing
don't.
something?
No. I have the same view as you in a sense that. So yeah, I have the same view as you. There is a underpinning of folks that say, well, we live. You take an oath to support the Constitution, but you swear it on the Bible. And I go, well, you don't have to actually swear in the Bible. You can swear it in the Quran, whatever. I'm a practicing Catholic. To me, it's like I don't care who you believe. You could be atheist. I don't care. Like, to me, it's your personal decision. As long as it doesn't affect the team or everyone else, then we're good. It was hot and heavy, and a lot of, again, political leaders said to me, hey, Patrick, this is the hot button issue. There's a reason why it hasn't moved in Congress. There's a reason why we haven't repealed the national hotel. People know it's wrong. People know it's stupid. People know, especially after 9/11, when we need every able-bodied man, woman to go serve, and to kick out 13,000. And if you look back past the national hotel, we kicked out over 140,000 Americans because of who they loved, pre 9/11. So it was a long time coming. I will never forget, though. I mean, I used to work out. My first year in Congress, I had an apartment with Tim Walls, right? Mm-hmm. So, and again, the cheapest part we could get that was within walking distance, a few blocks away, was $2,500 a month. So we're both paying, $1,250 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, maybe to some people, but for me that was a lot of money because I have a mortgage here in Bucks County, and
sounds like a lot of money to me now.
Yeah. So my last 3 years in Congress, I actually slept in my office because I heard through Gary Fine, you can just keep like an air mattress on your couch, and I was like, and there's showers, and we have a little locker room, and a gym. And I was like, man, so my last years I slept in my air mattress in my office, right? Very glamorous life being a member of Congress. So I did that, but I'll never forget during Donuts Hotel, in the locker room, you're not really supposed to talk business, right? It's you're there to work out, you're not there to, And so I remember I was there. I used to do P90X with Paul Ryan. He eventually became the Speaker of the House, and he's a good guy. And I used to joke because his wife is a Democrat, and he's Republican, and my ex-wife was Republican. I'm a Democrat, right? So we used to joke about that kind of thing. And so I work out with him. I'm sweaty. I'm going about to take a shower. I just got a shower. I'm in the locker. I'm just trying to get changed. I have an 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I work out from 6 to 7:30. I hustle. I have an 8 o'clock every day. And this one member of Congress grabs me. He's like, hey, Patrick, he goes, I want you to know, with this Don't Ask, Don't Tell stuff, and he's with his southern drawl, and he's like, you're going to have blood in your hands, son. You have blood in your hands. And he got in my face a little bit. And he's like, he goes, what you're doing is a disgrace to this country, because I'm for equality. I'm fighting out. And I go, and it was just rude, and he's kind of, and again, I'm not trying to be, and I just kind of like rolled my neck back a little bit, and I got my Irish up. I stepped toward him a little bit, and I go, listen, old man. I said, don't get in my face in the locker room. It's not going to end well for you. And I go, this is a generational thing that you just don't understand. We don't give a shit about who you love. And it's simple. You either believe in equality or you don't. You either want to fight for equality or you don't. And I'm on the right side of history, and you're not going to be.
So you leave Congress. You're a business person now. You have a private equity firm. You invested millions of dollars in other businesses. I think you have ownership in almost 39 different businesses now.
That thing is 49 companies we invested in. Yeah.
49 companies you invested in. You've done well. You're successful. But dear and true to your heart is literally veteran-owned businesses. And it seems like they're on the decline. Is that accurate?
It is, and it's unfortunate. Again, it's about solving pains. The great thing about veterans, they're innovative, they're entrepreneur, they're hardworking. They don't do 9 to 5. They do, just give me a mission, I'll get it done. And I say, if you need someone to fly the space shuttle, I grab 2 paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division. I say, hey, I need to fly the shuttle. You're going to Mars next week. Figure it out. Don't get duct tape. Don't figure out a way to get that thing into Mars. And you look at the greatness about America is that we have the number 1 military in the world and number 1 economy in the world. Now, again, that's not a preordained right. We got to work at that every day. We have China breathing down our neck on both those fronts, military and the economy. They have 1 billion people. We got 330 million. They're 3 times their size. And you look at some of the great global iconic brands in the world were started by American veterans coming back from war and starting their own thing. So you look at the largest retailer in the world is Walmart, started by Army veteran Sam Walton. The largest sports apparel company in the world is Nike, started by Bill Bowerman and Phil Knight, both Army veterans. The largest media company in the world is Comcast, owns NBC, Universal Pictures, etc. Started by Ralph Roberts, a Navy vet after World War II. But Lance, after World War II, half the veterans start their own small business. Half. My generation of Iraq, Afghanistan veterans, it's less than 5%.
Why do you think that is?
A lot of it problem is access to capital. It costs money to start a business. It's not like, most folks that join the military like me, they don't have independent wealth. They're not.
Do you think, and so I disagree with you, because you can start a business, a lawn mowing business, landscaping business, all these roofing, we represent a lot of different companies here, and I've seen some people with no access to money become millionaires, right?
Yeah.
I say this to my wife all the time. When I went to school, no one ever taught me about business. No one ever taught me about owning my own business, about communication, about my credit scores, all these things that are fundamental about running a business. Do you think during World War II, the American dream was still happening? I want to come to America. I want to own my own business. I'm going to make a way for myself, to where now I feel like almost school teaches people to go get a 9-to-5. School teaches you just go work for somebody. If you have good grades, someone's going to hire you and pay you well. No one says you have good grades, go start your own business. Have you ever heard someone say that to you?
Yeah. No, they don't. And I think it's a cultural thing, and that's what I'm
asking, because World War II, you think about it, back then, I say it all the time, people were hungry. They were willing to give you 20 hours a day to work because they knew what it was like to have nothing. Here, our nothing is still better, way better than most people's average in other countries.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. And I will say another thing about the greatest generation, World War II. Half went back and started their own small business, and a lot, they went into college. It was the GI Bill, the original GI Bill, right? Mm-hmm. And it democratized education in America, which I think is a good thing, go to college and they pay for it stuff, right? So the military has actually been ahead of social change. Talk about entrepreneurship, talk about going to college, right, on the GI Bill, right? And by the way, when I told you earlier, when I co-authored with Tim Walls the post 9/11 GI Bill, and 1.1 million kids are now in school in that GI Bill, their average is over a 3.0 and stuff. I mean, they do well. It's not like some handout. They earned it. They earned it and they're doing well. But when you talk about even the military as this change agent in America, starting to democratize education, starting these global iconic brands, right? And then during the Korean War, half of our country during Korea in the 50s was still segregated, right? The North and South, we had colored water fountains in the South and stuff like that, right? And President Truman at the time said, hey, listen, if you wear green, you wear the military, whatever branch you are, I don't care what color your skin is, we're desegregating the military. And he could do it by executive order because there was no law against it, right? Yeah. So he did it by executive order. There was generals and political leaders in the Pentagon, they resigned their commissions. Well, I'm not serving, I'm not sharing restaurant, I'm not sharing mess hall, I'm not sharing a bathroom with colored people. And again, that was our history, right? Mm-hmm. But again, the military was ahead of social change. And again, saying, hey, and we did that, there was no real problems, and it was great. You have the repeal of the NSLTL, by the way, ushered in marriage equality, cited by the Supreme Court when they ushered in marriage equality, by the way, again, agent of social change. But I do think right now in America, we do need more vegetrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. We do need people to understand it's not about 9 to 5. If you want to be great, you got to, as Kobe Bryant said, everybody practices everyone wants to take that game-winning shot. Everyone wants to be a champion. But do they want to practice like a champion? Do they want to do recovery like a champion? You got to carry yourself socially like a champion. You got to, sleep, like a champion. Again. And that was a different mindset. When the game's over, your job's not over. You got to go analyze stuff. You got to go and again, that's not just in sports, but in life. And I'm always trying to get better. It's not about Patrick Murphy. But it's about the culture of being a veteran, about teamwork and mission accomplishment. It's about just getting the job done. And I do think we need more folks to understand. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's not about getting a second home. It's about you do you. What is going to make you happy? Do you want to be great? Then go be great. If you don't want to be great, that's okay. And don't think you're entitled to it, because you're not. If you're just chill with 9 to 5.
You're trying to get more vets to start their own businesses. Do you think social media, because I say this to my wife all the time, people hear social media has made people think becoming a millionaire is easy nowadays? I think we both agree to that. You're on Facebook, Instagram, everyone's an influencer. Everyone's trying to earn their blue checks. You know what I mean? Everyone's trying to say they're this, they're that. I see broke ass people with pictures of Lamborghinis and fake watches. I know have no money. So it's just all like one big fugazi for me. But people actually believe it. Do you think that's another reason why you see people? Because they're like, wait a minute, if that person made it that easily and they don't find instant success, they just say, I'm out?
Yeah, and it is. It's funny because, like, I raised my kids. My daughter is going to be a freshman at Conley in Catholic High School, and I got a 6-year-old, sixth grader, Jack. And I remember when I told them, hey, I think I'm going to go take this job. President Obama asked me to be this Undersecretary of the Army. So Daddy's not going to have the job in New York, so we're not going. You guys can't go with me on the weekends to go to 30 Rockefeller Center and. I was just swing by the Jimmy Fallon. My studio's right nearby. And so I'm like, but I'm going back to Washington and Pentagon. You guys will go to the Pentagon eventually, et cetera. And I'm like, and so Maggie's like, do you mean you're not going to be on TV? We can't see you every weekend. I was like, no, babe, like I'm not going to, I'm giving up to. And my son Jack, he's like, so they're going to pay you more money? I'm like, no, actually, buddy, I'm not going to do so much. So, like, we're not going to go to Disney World next year. Like, these were the decisions I knew I was going to have to make.
Yeah.
And I was like, but we had gone a year before, and they're not. They know we weren't going every year anyway. But so I've tried to teach them about it and not to be materialistic, not to be, and to them it's, I kind of see the eyes of the world around them. Like the one time, my daughter Maggie, she calls me to the Pentagon. She goes, Dad, you didn't tell me so-and-so was going to be at the Pentagon. I go, Maggie, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she goes, I see on Instagram that an influencer, something Bartardi girl, she was a gymnast and now an actress and singer.
Yeah, so the wrong guy.
Okay, but she was there with Shawn Johnson, who was an Olympian. And they came to my office in Pentagon because, we had some soldiers with them on the Olympic team. And they came by, and so I have a pull-up bar in my office. And so I did pull-ups. I did 37 pull-ups with the Olympic team, and I was joking with them, like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, and I'm not a gymnast at all. I'm a hockey player. But, like, and she goes, Dad, you got to tell me when and I'm like, Mags, that's not, like, that was 15 minutes of my day. It was, like, a favor because the media team's like, we got to recruit Gen Z. They're going to be there. I'm like, yeah, no problem. Took my jacket off. But I do think it is a little bit of people got to understand it's not about keeping up with the Joneses. Like, you got to understand what makes you happy. Like, you got to understand, what do you want to be in life? Is it to have that fancy car? Is it, and, to me, it's like, I don't care about cars, right? So I drive a Jeep Renegade. I drive and I'm fine with that, right?
I drive a pickup truck.
Yeah. I think it's immoral that our country, every citizen in this country owes $87,000 to our national debt. And that's growing. We're paying interest on that debt. Like, that's the stuff, like those row house mentality, those lessons I learned, I took to Congress, I take to my life, and I try and teach it to other people.
I got 2 final words for you, and I appreciate you being on. You answered a lot of tough questions. Not trying to be a jerk to you. I hope you think I'm just trying to be respectful to you. 2 final words. First one, you're from Northeast Philly. You grew up blue collar. I lived in Northeast Philly, as you know, that went to St. Leo's. You went to Ryan. What would you say to a Northeast, poor Bucks County, middle class kid that, hey, listen, I want to be a congressperson. I want to go make a difference. I want to go own a bunch of businesses. But I live in Northeast Philly. My dad might, not there's anything wrong with being a cop, so I'm not saying that, but your dad being a cop, he's not, you're not living in a big, huge mansion. He's serving the community. That's what he's doing, right?
Yeah, totally.
What would you say to that kid, boy or girl, about that dream they want to have? That's my first final one. I got a second one for you.
Yeah, and I always say to them, I say to people, why do you want to do that? Because the why is so important in life. To me, in Congress, I want to help my brothers and sisters. I want to represent and, raise the minimum wage when I was there. I did, and to me, it was solving problems. It was getting moving the ball forward. And if it's a business, it's like, why? That's why I help veteran-owned businesses. That's my jam, right? So I say to them, okay, because I get a lot of veterans, and I mentor veterans running. I have a progression committee that helps people, and veterans run included. And, I say to them, because a lot of people say, Patrick, I want to be 33 years old and be a congressman like you were. And I'm like, well, the average age of a freshman congressman is 58. The average of them are millionaires. I'm like, I was neither, right? And I'm like, you realize there's 600,000 elected positions in America. Did you ever think about doing, borough council? Did you ever think about being a state representative first? Before you go because of the 600,000 elected positions in America, there's only 535 in the federal level. And I'm saying, like, the numbers are, it's tough to get there. And
Yeah, every organization goes like this. The higher up you go, the harder it is to get. That's just the reality of it.
And I say, like, why do you want to do it? Okay. And then who's your role model? Is it, and sometimes I'm like, well, you are. I'm like, okay, well, like, I got a law degree. Were you in the military? What did you do in the military? Because it wasn't like I was in the military, like, just
Hanging
9 to
out.
5. I was airborne school. I was air assault school. I was going to Ranger school, but then I got diverted to deployment. But I was teaching at West Point. And when I was at West Point, it wasn't like I was just teaching, which was an awesome job. I was coaching little kids in hockey. And I remember one of the parents at hockey, this major came up to me once, and I'm Catherine. He goes, "Hey, you're Captain Murphy, right? You're my kid." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Which one is your kid?" I'm like, "None of them." I go, and he goes, "You're just, coaching again?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, I play college hockey. I love hockey." And of all the military posts in the Army, there's only 3 to have a hockey rink. It's Fort Drum, New York, West Point, New York, and Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I'm like, so I get free ice time. I get to get, and, I was a lecturer at the local church. I was like, and why? Because I don't work a day in my life. I do things that I love to do. Like, today was like going to the Lions. I'm like, all right, this is cool. I love Lance. Like, and to me, like, if you love what you do, you never work a day of your life. Now, again, would I rather answered emails and read about the Ben Simmons trade or the Eagles draft, and are they like? Sometimes I can get to that later, right? Like, you have to have a schedule, you have to move things, and every day I start my day, it's like I write 3 things at WMI. What's most important? Like, what do I got to get tackled today? And within that is always, what's up with my family or my friends? Like, what am I doing to give back? What am I doing to make a difference?
Yeah. On the final roar, someone that's passionate to you. How can the community help veterans and help more veterans become business owners? I mean, can the community help? How would you start? What would be on the final word to any veteran out there that wants to own a business? Is there programs out there? Like, what? I mean, how do you even start the process? Because I'm even blind to that. I'm just kind of curious. I know you got some programs out there. Can you kind of talk about them?
Yeah, a couple things. One, I would say to them, like, less than 1% have served in the military during these longest wars. So it's not for the 1%. It's not just for the government to take care of them. It's a whole nation approach, not just a whole government approach. So that rest of the 99% of America, you see a veteran with a hat or you see a T-shirt or whatever, you think, whether the Olive Garden or Texas Roadhouse, whatever it is, just be, hey, we're just served, just ask them questions. Hey, what are you doing? 2, give them a shot. So again, if you're looking to employ somebody, or even if you're not employing somebody, if you own a small business, are any of your vendors a veteran-owned business? And think about that. Like, hey, well, I didn't know there's veteran businesses, and I'm active with the Greater Philadelphia, veterans, organization, and it's called the GPVN, the Veterans Network, Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network. But what are you doing to recognize and to help out and hire vendors or hire this or invest in veteran businesses, even if you're not a veteran yourself? Like, hey, I didn't know half veterans started their own small business and created Nike, Walmart, Comcast. And then later on FedEx, and later on GoDaddy, all veterans. I didn't realize that 50% did, and it's less than 5% now. So hey, I like to invest in veteran business. You can do it through my venture capital firm, Sterling Lonesome Group. If you say, hey, I want to give WorkMark a run, which is a company I co-founded in Conshohocken. WorkMark is a winning habits company, and it's about using technology to help create winning habits. Give us a shot. Just let us do a demo. Like,
yeah,
give it a shot. And it's not about Patrick Murphy or whatever it is. Like, that's what I would say to give back. And just, if you see a veteran, understand that not all veterans are combat veterans. You see a veteran at an Olive Garden or Texas Roadhouse or whatever, don't ask the question like, hey, did you kill anybody? Don't and
do people really ask that question?
Yeah, sometimes. And I get it when little kids ask because they don't know any better, and that's fine. But like, we all know by the grace of God that, we are still standing here. And we all, even those of us who survived combat, like, we know we're the lucky ones. And we know, like, I've known better warriors, 10 times better warriors than I was. But I was in the company heroes, and they didn't make it. And it's just because I was lucky. Like, it's not because I was better. Like, and I have the guilt. And that's why I have to, like, let their life live on and try to make a difference. Because I was blessed with another day. And my responsibility, my duty as a combat veteran is to go and help it better. The Vietnam veteran generation, there was about 5.5 million that served in Vietnam. 2 uncles that served, and my dad served during Vietnam. Our country learned a lesson. I talked about the Powell Doctrine earlier, but we didn't separate the war from the warrior. That we, when Vietnam veterans came back, they didn't have a welcome home ceremony. They didn't have parades. In fact, they were saying, "Oh, you're a baby killer," because that was the first war on TV.
Yeah.
And that generation could have stayed home. They could have been like angry, salty, etc. That generation bent over backwards for my generation. They were the first ones to say, "Welcome home, brother," or "Welcome home, sister." People like Jesse Hill and stuff like that here in Bucks County. And I look at when I say if you're the part of 99% that isn't a veteran, I was reading in Sunday's papers, Courier Times, a guy about Ed Preston. I got to know Ed Preston a little bit, but Ed Preston owns a bike shop. It's called Bike King. And I got my son a bike a year ago. He was too small for the little bike he had, and they were out at Walmart. And so I was like, I looked at that bike, and I went there, and he goes, "Hey, are you Patriot Murphy?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I'm not looking for a discount." And he's like, "Yeah, no." He goes, "I'm doing this veterans more. Can you speak at my event?" I'm like, "Yeah, whatever you need." And here I'm reading the paper on Sunday. He raised $200,000 for a Vietnam veteran sculptor, and it's going to be in September. It's in the paper, and I'll put on my at Patrick Murphy PA stuff. But he bends over backwards, and he just says "Hey, I was an Eagle Scout. I didn't serve, but I just want to give back because I'm appreciative." And his generation was Vietnam, so he's raising $200,000 to do a nice sculpture in Middletown, Bucks County. That's how I can make a difference, and it does make a difference.
Sure.
And so, to me, just try to get back. Try to be part of the solution. Don't just bellyache about it. Don't just sit around about it. Say, "Hey, what can I do to make a difference today?"
So I got to tell you something. I have your book here. I actually read it. It's a great book. It's called Taking the Hill, From Northeast Philly to Congress to the Pentagon. I can't wait to see what's next. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to ask you about it because I think you'll be announcing it soon. So congratulations on all your success. I appreciate you being on the Den. Get a copy of Taking the Hill. It's a great book. Patrick, thank you so much.
Thanks, Lance.
Appreciate it.